Be still for a moment and feel the weight of this message, because this is not ordinary comfort for ordinary days. This is not a passing thought, not a soft whisper meant to briefly soothe you and then disappear into the noise of the world. This is the kind of message that arrives when an old season has already started collapsing beneath your feet, even if your eyes are only now beginning to understand it. This is the kind of message that comes when your soul has reached a threshold so powerful, so irreversible, that the invisible architecture around your life has already begun to rearrange itself. There are moments in existence when everything seems normal on the surface, yet in the unseen a decision has already been made. The air feels the same, the walls look the same, the road outside your life appears unchanged. But beneath appearances something immense has moved. A hidden clock has struck. An old inner contract has expired. A silent gate has unlocked. And from this point forward, the version of you that was built for endurance alone can no longer remain the one in charge. Your journey is no longer asking only for patience. It is demanding transformation. It is demanding that you stop standing at the edge of your own becoming and finally enter the territory that was waiting for your alignment. That is why this season may have felt strange. That is why certain things no longer fit the way they used to. That is why some conversations feel thinner, some dreams feel heavier, some silences feel louder, and some desires feel less like wishes and more like summons. You are not imagining the shift. You are not becoming too sensitive. You are not losing your place. You are standing at the beginning of a phase that will not respond to your old fears, your old limitations, or your old ways of defining yourself. This is a different kind of chapter. It will ask more of you, but it will also reveal more through you. And understand this clearly. When a new phase truly begins, it does not simply add new blessings on top of an unchanged soul. It changes the soul first, it deepens the vessel. It strips falsehood from identity. It teaches the spirit to recognize its own authority. It pulls you away from what numbed you, not because life is becoming cruel, but because your future can no longer be built on what merely kept you distracted. The comfort of the old season is being removed because it cannot carry the weight of what is coming. So if you have felt as though something is ending, while something else is trying to be born, this message is for you. If you have felt the strange grief of outgrowing your former life before fully stepping into the next one, this message is for you. If you have felt that your inner world is being shaken, clarified, refined, and quietly called into a deeper kind of order, this message is for you. Your journey is entering a completely different phase. A new phase has begun. And because it is real, because it is deep, because it is touching the foundation rather than the surface, it will not be the same. Part 1. The version of you that survived cannot be the one that leads this next chapter. There is a sacred difference between the self that survived and the self that is meant to lead. Many people spend years confusing these two, thinking that because something protected them once, it must always remain their primary way of moving through life. But survival is not the same as destiny. Survival teaches quick reflexes, emotional armor, guarded expectations, strategic silence, and the ability to keep walking while wounded. It is a powerful teacher, but it is not the final architect of a fulfilled life. The version of you that learned how to endure chaos, disappointment, delay, rejection, misunderstanding, and inner loneliness did something extraordinary. It kept you alive. It got you through seasons that were never meant to be permanent. But now that you are entering a completely different phase, survival can no longer remain seated on the throne of your identity. This is where many souls become confused. They think growth will look like adding more strength to their old defense mechanisms, when in truth, deeper growth often begins by dismantling those mechanisms and asking whether they still deserve authority. The guarded part of you may say, "Stay small because disappointment hurts less that way." The wounded part may say, "Do not expect too much because loss is easier when you have already rehearsed it." The tired part may say, "Take what you can get because peace is uncertain and greatness is costly." But the phase now unfolding in your life is not asking you to sharpen those voices. It is asking you to outgrow them. That is why some of your old habits may suddenly feel heavy, not because they stopped working in a practical sense, but because they no longer match the frequency of who you are becoming. You may notice that you are less willing to betray yourself for temporary approval, less willing to explain your worth to people committed to misunderstanding it, less willing to live in emotional climates that require you to become smaller so others can stay comfortable, less willing to make a home in confusion simply because confusion is familiar. This is not arrogance. This is the beginning of inner leadership. This is the soul recognizing that what once kept it safe cannot also keep it free. And freedom is what this new phase is about. Not shallow freedom, not performative freedom, not the kind that only looks independent from a distance. This is deeper freedom, the freedom to be internally aligned, the freedom to move without consulting every old fear for permission, the freedom to stop asking your wounds to narrate your future, the freedom to honor your own inner knowing before the world applauds it, the freedom to live from essence rather than reaction. That kind of freedom requires a different leader within you. It requires the awakened self, not merely the defended self. Do not misunderstand this transition. It is not an act of self-rejection. You are not supposed to hate the version of you that carried you here. You are supposed to honor it and then release it from responsibilities it was never meant to hold forever. Bless the tired version of you. Bless the vigilant version of you. Bless the one who learned how to read danger in a room, how to anticipate silence, how to survive without being seen, how to keep functioning while hurting. That self was sacred for its time, but its time is ending. Its job was to get you through the storm, not to convince you that storms are all you deserve. This is why the shift feels intense. Somewhere inside, a quiet dethroning is happening. The old narrator is losing authority. The old fear is losing influence. The old agreements are being revoked. The parts of you that once said, "This is all I can expect," are being interrupted by a stronger knowing that says, "No, that chapter has expired." A new phase begins, not only when life changes around you, but when the internal government of your soul changes within you. You are being called to lead yourself from a deeper place now, not from panic, not from wounded memory, not from scarcity disguised as realism, but from truth, from alignment, from the kind of steady inner authority that no longer mistakes familiarity for destiny. The surviving self may still speak, but it can no longer decide. The chapter ahead requires someone else at the center of your life. The version of you that knows your journey was never meant to end in endurance alone, but in transformation. Part 2. Realignment will separate you from what cannot travel with you. One of the hardest truths about entering a new phase is that it almost never begins with full arrival. It begins with separation. It begins with things no longer fitting the way they used to. It begins with a quiet but relentless disconnection from what once felt normal. This can be unsettling, especially if you were taught to measure progress by how much you could keep, how many people stayed, how many doors remained open, or how comfortably you could preserve your old life while trying to receive a new one. But that is not how profound transformation works. When realignment begins, it does not first make everything clearer. It first makes everything truer. And truth has a way of becoming uncomfortable when you have spent years adjusting yourself to survive environments that were never designed to nourish your spirit. Suddenly, what once felt manageable begins to feel draining. What once felt entertaining begins to feel hollow. What once felt like connection begins to reveal itself as dependency, habit, performance, or convenience. You may discover that some people loved the version of you that was endlessly available, endlessly forgiving, endlessly self-silencing, endlessly willing to carry the emotional burden of every room. But when you begin to stand differently, speak differently, guard your energy differently, and honor your peace differently, something happens as the connection changes, and sometimes it falls apart. Do not be too quick to call this failure. Some endings are not evidence that you did something wrong. Some endings are evidence that you finally stopped doing something wrong to yourself. Some separations happen because the next phase of your life cannot be built with the same internal bargains that maintained the last one. Anything that survives only through your self-betrayal is too expensive to keep. Anything that requires you to stay confused in order to remain connected is not aligned with where you are going. Anything that calls your shrinking maturity and your silence peace while benefiting from your exhaustion does not deserve access to the future that is opening for you now. Realignment is painful not because it is cruel, but because it reveals how much of your life may have been arranged around adaptation rather than essence. You may have adapted to people who did not really see you, adapted to routines that dulled your gifts, adapted to environments where your depth was treated like inconvenience, adapted to emotional climates where your role was always to steady everyone else while slowly disappearing inside. These adaptations may have helped you cope, but they were never the full truth of who you were. And now that a new phase has begun, your spirit is rebelling against every arrangement that was built on your partial existence. This is why the in-between can feel lonely. You may no longer belong to what you have outgrown, yet you may not fully see where you belong next. It can feel as if the old world is fading before the new world has clearly taken shape. But do not mistake that corridor for emptiness. The in-between is often where the deepest consecration happens. It is where the soul stops negotiating with false comforts. It is where identity is refined without applause. It is where discernment becomes sharper than longing. It is where you stop asking, how do I keep everything intact? And begin asking, what is true enough to remain? Peace will feel different in this season. It will not always look like immediate ease. Sometimes, peace will look like refusing what once had access to you. Sometimes it will look like letting a room misunderstand your silence. Sometimes it will look like walking away without an explanation that satisfies everyone else. Sometimes it will feel like grief, because release often carries grief, even when it is right. But this grief is not pointless. It is the ache of becoming too true to continue pretending. Understand the beauty in this. Your life is becoming more selective because your soul is becoming more aligned. Selective does not mean cold. Selective does not mean barren. Selective means sacred. It means your energy is no longer available for every pattern, every attachment, every distraction, every emotional demand, every inherited script that once claimed the right to shape your days. A new phase cannot fully begin until misalignment loses its home inside you. So let separation do its work. Let realignment teach you that not everything you lose is meant to be mourned equally. Some things are leaving because the life ahead of you is finally becoming honest. Part 3. The new phase opens through inner obedience before outer evidence appears. There are times in life when the most important movement you will ever make cannot be justified to everyone around you. Not because it is irrational, not because it is reckless, and not because it lacks substance, but because the deepest transformations often begin in a realm that outer logic cannot yet measure. Something within you starts knowing before your circumstances start confirming. A quiet instruction forms. A pull becomes stronger. A certain compromise becomes impossible to continue. A former path feels emotionally uninhabitable. And while nothing visible may have fully changed yet, everything inside you knows that continuing in the same direction would now be a form of betrayal. This is where inner obedience becomes sacred. Not obedience in a narrow or fearful sense, but obedience to what is deepest, clearest, and most aligned within you. It is the courage to move with what feels true before you have collected enough proof to make everyone comfortable. It is a willingness to honor the whisper before the crowd hears the announcement. It is the discipline to stop delaying what your spirit has already confirmed, simply because your mind is still trying to negotiate with uncertainty. The phase you are entering will not open because you finally overthink your way into certainty. It will open because you become honest enough to stop resisting what you already know. There is a kind of knowing that does not shout. It does not always arrive dramatically. Sometimes it comes as a steady discomfort you can no longer dismiss. Sometimes it arrives as the repeated sense that a relationship, pattern, ambition, habit, or role no longer matches the shape of your soul. Sometimes it feels like grief. Sometimes it feels like fire. Sometimes it feels like the unbearable weight of pretending one more day. And yet within that tension, there is a clean thread of truth. You know that something in your life must be answered differently now. Many people wait for outer evidence before they obey inner truth. But the deeper order of transformation is often the opposite. First comes the alignment, then the evidence. First comes the inward yes, then the outward opening. First comes the decision to stop living in contradiction. Then the path begins to reveal itself. This is why so many remain standing outside their next chapter for years. They keep demanding visible guarantees before taking the very steps that would make those guarantees possible. They want a full map before they trust the road. But a living path does not always unfold that way. Sometimes, the light only reaches the section of ground you are willing to step onto. Obedience in this phase may look like leaving behind an identity that used to earn you approval. It may look like becoming more disciplined, where you were once casual, more inwardly governed, where you were once reactive, more discerning where you were once overly open, more patient where you were once driven by urgency, more direct where you were once vague, more truthful where you were once performing peace. It may look like protecting your attention, simplifying your life, reorganizing your values, releasing what drains you, even if it still looks attractive from the outside. Choosing integrity over image, choosing depth over speed, choosing coherence over constant explanation. This is not easy, because obedience to inner truth often costs the comfort of being understood too soon. It may cost applause. It may cost the illusion that everyone can come with you. It may cost the old image you built to stay acceptable. But what it gives is far greater: inner union. When you obey what is real within you, your energy stops scattering in opposite directions. Your life stops leaking power through contradiction. You no longer spend your strength preserving what your deeper self has already outgrown. Something gathers inside you. A steadiness begins. A quiet power returns. And that power matters, because the phase ahead does not require more performance from you. It requires more integrity. It requires the kind of person who can hear the deeper summons and answer it without waiting for the whole world to validate the choice. You are not here to remain in permanent rehearsal. You are not here to endlessly study the threshold without crossing it. You are here to move, to listen, to obey what is aligned, to become the kind of person whose outer life can finally sustain what the inner life has been preparing for all along. So if there is something within you that has been asking for a cleaner life, a truer rhythm, a braver decision, a firmer boundary, a long-delayed release, a more disciplined focus, a quieter strength, a deeper honesty, understand this. The new phase may not be waiting for more signs. It may be waiting for your obedience. Part 4. The delay was not emptiness. It was the reweighting of your future. Nothing tests the heart quite like delay. Not the kind of delay that lasts an afternoon or a week, but the kind that enters your years and sits beside your hope long enough to make you question whether you imagined your calling, your timing, or your place in the unfolding of your own life. Delay can wound quietly. It can make a person who is full of inner fire begin to wonder whether their fire has any purpose at all. It can make a soul that once felt chosen by possibility begin to feel overlooked by time. It can make patience feel less like wisdom and more like exile. But the phase you are entering demands a new interpretation of delay, because not every postponement was a denial. Some of your longest waits were doing invisible work on the architecture of your future. There are things that could not come into your life while your inner foundation was still carrying hidden fractures. There are opportunities that would have arrived like blessings and then revealed themselves to be burdens, because the version of you standing there at the time was not yet internally arranged to carry them well. There are forms of influence, responsibility, intimacy, abundance, clarity, and visibility that do not simply require desire. They require capacity, and capacity is rarely built in public. It is built in the hidden rooms of delay, where the soul is forced to grow roots before it is handed weight. While you thought nothing was happening, much was happening. While your outer life seemed stalled, your inner life was being stretched, tested, clarified, and deepened. While you were asking why the door had not opened, you were becoming the kind of person who would not be destroyed by what was waiting behind it. Your standards were being refined. Your discernment was becoming less sentimental and more truthful. Your emotional endurance was becoming cleaner, less dramatic, less attached to panic. Your dependence on surface validation was being exposed. Your identity was being separated from urgency. You were learning how to endure silence without collapsing into self-doubt. None of this was empty. It was preparation of a very high order. Delay also reveals what desire alone cannot reveal. It shows you whether you want the thing itself, or merely the feeling of finally arriving. It shows you whether your hope has roots, or whether it only survives in ideal conditions. It shows you what remains in you when applause, recognition, quick evidence, and visible progress are removed. This can feel severe, but it is sacred, because what is built during delay is not merely patience. It is substance. It is density of soul. It is the kind of inner weight that allows a person to receive something beautiful without instantly becoming careless, arrogant, fragile, dependent, or lost. There is another mystery inside delay. Timing does not only protect the thing you are waiting for, it protects you from receiving it too early. Many people imagine that earlier would have meant easier, but that is often an illusion created by longing. Earlier might have meant more confusion, more leakage, more wrong attachments around the very thing you prayed for. earlier might have brought visibility before your boundaries existed, access before discernment matured, abundance before your sense of self stabilized, or love before your wounds stopped interpreting tenderness as danger. Delay was not always the absence of movement. Sometimes it was the mercy of sequencing. And yes, perhaps some of your waiting seasons hurt more than words can hold. Perhaps there were nights when you felt forgotten by life itself. Perhaps you watched others move ahead and wondered what secret you had missed. Perhaps you carried dreams that became heavier the longer you held them. Do not dishonor that pain by pretending it was easy, but do not misread it either. Pain is not proof of abandonment. Sometimes, pain is the evidence that something deeper is being prepared than what the present moment can yet explain. The new phase now beginning asks you to reinterpret your own history with dignity. Stop telling the story as if your life was merely delayed. Tell it truthfully. Your life was being weighted. Your future was being rebalanced. Your vessel was being strengthened. Your perception was being purified. Your ability to hold what is real without worshipping what is temporary was being formed. What looked like nothing may one day reveal itself as one of the holiest periods of inner construction you ever passed through. So do not step into this next chapter carrying the insult that time betrayed you. Time was shaping you, and now that a completely different phase is beginning, you may finally see why certain doors remained closed until your soul could enter them without losing itself. Part 5. Healing in this season is not about becoming soft again. It is about becoming whole. Many people misunderstand healing because they think it means returning to a former tenderness, a former innocence, or a former openness that existed before pain taught them caution. But the kind of healing required in a completely different phase of life is deeper than that. It is not a rewind. It is not the restoration of naivety. It is not the attempt to become untouched again. True healing is not about pretending the wound never happened. It is about integrating what happened so completely that it no longer governs the future from the shadows. It is about becoming whole, not because nothing broke you, but because what broke you no longer defines the limits of your becoming. There is a powerful difference between being closed and being discerning, between being hardened and being rooted, between being numb and being peaceful, between being detached and being inwardly free. Healing teaches you these differences. It teaches you that your depth does not require self-exposure to everything. It teaches you that your compassion does not require self-erasure. It teaches you that love, trust, creativity, and openness become safer when they are no longer offered from desperation, fear, or the need to be chosen by what has not chosen you well. This new phase is asking for that kind of healing. Not decorative healing, not the kind that sounds beautiful in language, but leaves the same wounds in charge of your choices. Not the kind that performs serenity while secretly trembling before every potential loss. It is asking for deep healing, the kind that changes how you interpret silence, timing, intimacy, rest, uncertainty, and self-worth. The kind that no longer sees every delay as rejection. The kind that no longer treats peace as suspicious because chaos used to feel familiar. The kind that does not need to be pursued in order to believe it is valuable. Healing here is about restoring your relationship with your own inner authority. Pain may have taught you to doubt yourself, to apologize for your intuition, to second-guess your needs, to minimize your gifts, to normalize mistreatment, to stay too long, to explain too much, to shrink your expectations. But healing begins to interrupt those old reflexes. It whispers, then speaks, then stands. It says, you do not need to abandon yourself to preserve connection. You do not need to lower your standards to prove your humility. You do not need to live in chronic self-questioning just because your past contained instability. You do not need to become emotionally available to every confusion in order to be kind. Wholeness also means reclaiming the parts of you that pain taught you to exile. The playful part, the visionary part, the expressive part, the part that still desires beauty without shame, the part that still believes in meaning, the part that still wants to create, build, love, contribute, and expand. Wounding often forces these parts underground because survival becomes louder than imagination. But a new phase cannot be built by a soul that is still split against itself. What is hidden must be welcomed back. What is silenced must be given language. What is buried must be invited to breathe again. This does not happen through force. It happens through devotion to truth, through honest reflection, through boundaries that protect peace rather than punish others, through grief that is allowed to move rather than being disguised as strength, through the slow rebuilding of trust with oneself, through small repeated acts of self-respect, through refusing to return to people, patterns, or internal agreements that reopen wounds you have already labored to close. Healing becomes real when your choices begin to honor what your insight has already learned. And this matters profoundly now, because the phase ahead will require your wholeness more than your performance. It will require your ability to receive without suspicion, to lead without self-betrayal, to stay soft without becoming porous, to remain discerning without becoming cynical, to be open without becoming available to harm. That is mature healing. That is sacred strength. That is what happens when the soul stops asking to be restored to who it was before pain, and instead asks to be made so whole that pain no longer has the final word. So let healing in this season become a return, not to the past, but to the deepest truth of your being. Let it make you clearer, steadier, kinder, less easily manipulated, more inwardly governed, more at peace with your own pace, more faithful to your own knowing. You are not healing so you can fit back into your old life. You are healing because your new phase requires a self that is no longer fragmented by what it has survived. Part 6. Purpose will no longer feel like a dream. It will begin to demand structure. There comes a moment when purpose stops behaving like a beautiful idea and starts behaving like a responsibility. Up until that point, many people speak of purpose in poetic terms. They imagine it as inspiration, calling, passion, destiny, or inner fire. And yes, it is all of those things. But once a completely different phase begins, purpose becomes more demanding. It starts requiring structure. It stops asking merely to be admired and starts asking to be embodied. It stops accepting endless contemplation and begins asking for disciplined form. This is where many souls encounter resistance. They love the language of purpose, but not the cost of living in alignment with it. They love the feeling of significance, but not the daily architecture needed to protect what matters. They love the identity of being called, but not the ordinary rigor required to prepare their life to carry that call consistently. Yet, the next phase of your journey will not be built on inspiration alone. It will be built on devotion translated into rhythm, discipline, boundaries, and intentional choices. If your purpose has felt stronger lately, that may be why your life also feels more demanding. A deep calling cannot flourish in a scattered vessel. It cannot root in constant distraction. It cannot mature where attention is continually stolen by noise, urgency, emotional entanglement, or self-sabotage dressed up as flexibility. Purpose requires room. It requires protected energy. It requires a life arrangement that reflects what you claim to value. That means the new phase may not only inspire you, it may confront you. It may expose where your habits do not match your aspirations, where your environment weakens your focus, where your emotional patterns keep draining the very strength your path now needs. And this confrontation is sacred, because purpose is not trying to shame you. It is trying to organize you. It is trying to bring your outer life into agreement with your inner knowing. It is trying to teach you that what is meant for you cannot thrive in a life built entirely on reaction. If your gifts are real, they deserve schedules, not just dreams. If your vision is real, it deserves boundaries, not just longing. If your contribution is real, it deserves consistency, not just occasional bursts of emotion. This is how a new phase begins to stabilize. The soul stops romanticizing the path and starts inhabiting it. Structure, in this season, is not punishment. It is protection. It is the vessel that guards what matters from being diluted. It is the daily proof that you are taking your becoming seriously. It may look like better stewardship of your time, stronger boundaries with what depletes you, a clearer refusal to entertain distractions that once felt harmless but now cost too much. A more deliberate rhythm of creation, reflection, rest, study, work, or healing. It may look ordinary from the outside, but do not underestimate ordinary faithfulness. A life enters a different phase, not only through dramatic breakthroughs, but through repeated alignment with what matters most. There is also spiritual authority in structure, because when you start shaping your life around your deepest purpose, you stop living as though your energy exists to be claimed by every passing demand. You begin to signal to yourself and to life itself that your presence is not casual, that your gifts are not disposable, that your time is not endlessly negotiable, that the new phase you are entering deserves preparation, not mere enthusiasm. Structure becomes the language through which purpose says, I am no longer visiting, I live here now. This may require grief too. You may need to grieve old versions of freedom that were actually forms of drift. You may need to release the identity of being available to everything. You may need to disappoint people who benefited from your lack of structure. You may need to let go of habits that soothed you but also scattered you. But none of that is punishment. It is the cost of coherence. It is what happens when purpose ceases to be a fantasy and becomes a governing force. So hear this clearly. Your next phase is not just about realizing your purpose more deeply. It is about arranging your life so purpose can stand without collapsing under your own inconsistency. The dream is no longer enough. The vision is no longer enough. The longing is no longer enough. What is calling you now wants embodiment. It wants rhythm. It wants steadiness. It wants a life that no longer says one day, but begins to quietly, powerfully say now. Part 7. This new phase is not merely a change in circumstance. It is the emergence of spiritual authority. The final truth about a new phase is this. It is not only about receiving different outcomes. It is about becoming a different presence. There is a kind of transformation that changes events, opportunities, relationships, and visible conditions. But there is a deeper kind that changes the very atmosphere you carry. It changes how you enter a room, how you interpret resistance, how you speak, how you wait, how you discern, how you endure, how you bless, how you withdraw, how you build, how you remain standing when the visible world has not yet caught up with the invisible strength that has already matured within you. This is spiritual authority. Spiritual authority is not domination. It is not loudness, superiority, performance, or control. It is not the need to prove depth by sounding mysterious or powerful. True authority is quieter and heavier than that. It is the inner weight of someone who has been refined by pain, clarified by silence, sobered by delay, strengthened by obedience, cleansed by healing, and reorganized by purpose. It is the steadiness of a soul that no longer hands its identity to every passing circumstance. It is the calm force of someone whose inner world is finally becoming more authoritative than external chaos. This is why the new phase will not feel the same, because you will not be the same inside it. You may still face uncertainty, but uncertainty will no longer erase you. You may still encounter misunderstanding, but misunderstanding will no longer define you. You may still walk through transitions, but transitions will no longer convince you that you are lost. Why? Because something in you has become governed from a deeper place. You are beginning to stand from center rather than from reaction. You are beginning to live from essence rather than emotional weather. Authority also means you stop outsourcing your sense of reality. You stop asking unstable things to tell you who you are. You stop permitting the opinions of the uninformed to narrate your path. You stop building your self-worth on shifting responses, delayed outcomes, temporary recognition, or familiar emotional chaos. A soul with authority is not easily flattered into confusion or frightened back into smallness. It knows what it carries, even when the full evidence has not yet arrived. It knows what season it is in, even if others are still speaking to an old version of it. It knows that silence is not always emptiness, waiting is not always punishment, and resistance is not always redirection away. Sometimes, resistance is proof that a threshold is real. This authority does not remove your tenderness. It refines it. It teaches you how to remain compassionate without becoming available for misuse, how to remain open without losing discernment, how to remain patient without surrendering standards, how to remain humble without pretending you are less powerful than you are. That last one matters deeply. Many people have mistaken self-erasure for humility. But humility does not mean denying what has been formed in you. It means carrying it cleanly, without performance, without arrogance, without noise. It means no longer shrinking your gifts so others can remain comfortable with your light. Legacy begins here too, because the greatest legacy is not just what you leave behind in visible form. It is the frequency of truth you embody while you are here. It is the permission your life gives other people to become honest. It is the standard you set by refusing to live beneath what you know. It is the way your healed presence changes rooms without announcement. It is the way your clarity interrupts confusion. It is the way your peace refuses contamination. It is the way your courage teaches without preaching. A new phase is not only about what you gain, it is about what begins radiating through you. So do not think too small about what is changing. This is not just a better mood, a temporary lift, or a hopeful message for difficult days. This is the emergence of a new level of inner authority. The old season trained you through fire. This season reveals what the fire forged. It reveals the weight in your voice, the steadiness in your vision, the truth in your decisions, the firmness in your boundaries, the quiet gravity in your presence. You are not only crossing into a new phase of life, you are becoming the kind of person who can inhabit that phase without surrendering the truth that brought you there. And that is why it will not be the same. Because once authority awakens, you cannot unknow it. Once your spirit recognizes its own center, you cannot fully return to a life organized by fear. Once you have seen how deeply your journey is being restructured, you cannot keep calling it random. Something greater has begun. Something cleaner, something weightier, something that no longer asks for your permission to stay small. The new phase is here, and it is not merely changing your path, it is revealing your power to walk it differently. Closing. So let this be remembered as more than a message. Let it be remembered as a crossing. Your journey is entering a completely different phase, not a slightly improved version of the old one. Not a decorated continuation of what exhausted you. Not a temporary emotional rise that fades when life becomes difficult again. No. This is deeper than mood. Deeper than excitement, deeper than momentary relief. This is the beginning of a season in which your soul refuses to keep living beneath its own truth. This is the beginning of a season in which what is false will feel unbearable, what is real will feel undeniable, and what is aligned will begin to call you with a strength that can no longer be ignored. You have not gone through all that silence, all that delay, all that refinement, all that hidden grief, all that inner wrestling, all that release, all that private rebuilding, just to remain where you were. You did not survive those long internal winters, only to return to a life too small for your becoming. You did not heal in pieces just to hand your wholeness back to confusion. You did not learn discernment merely to betray it when the old comfort comes calling. Something in you has been made ready. Something in you has been tempered. Something in you has become too awake to keep living half alive. So stand differently now. Stand as someone who knows that the old phase has ended, even if the visible world is still catching up. Stand as someone who understands that alignment is not a luxury but a law of inner peace. Stand as someone who no longer asks fear to narrate destiny. Stand as someone who has paid for truth with waiting, with tears, with obedience, with letting go, with healing, with discipline, and with becoming. Stand as someone who knows that a new phase does not arrive to entertain the soul. It arrives to elevate it. And if this message found you at the right moment, do not keep it to yourself. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notification bell so you do not miss the next message meant to meet you exactly when your spirit needs it. Leave a comment and declare what is shifting in your life. Share this video with someone whose soul is standing at the edge of a new phase and needs the courage to cross. Now breathe this in one final time. A new phase has begun. It will not be the same, and neither will you.